Hi, I'm Sean Rogers, Vice President of Research at Enterprise Management Associates, and I'm here at NZ 2011 in Boston, and my guest right now is the General Manager of Information Management at IBM, Arvind Krishna. How are you?
Great to be here, Sean. How are you?
Wonderful. Great event that you guys have going on today. A huge crowd. I understand almost 1,000 folks attending?
Yes, it's over 1,000, and actually we ran out of space. The fire marshals don't allow more than that, or we could have had a few more.
I didn't even know that. That's fantastic. I guess that's the best problem to have with an event.
It is indeed. And actually more than even just the number, it's listening to all these clients, listening to their stories, listening to how much they love the technology and what it does for them in their business, and then their feedback on what more they'd like to do that really allows us to invest and grow the business as well.
I got to congratulate you. I like the theme of the event. You guys are very user-centric here today. And yesterday, a lot of social networking going on, and it seems like you're really listening to the Netezza community for their feedback and input.
Indeed. It's extremely important. Look, when you think about an appliance, it's all about consumption, meaning you think about a refrigerator, in the end, it's happiness of the household that puts it in. In these cases, these are enterprise appliances, not quite household appliances, but it's about what value the enterprise drives. And the value the enterprise drives comes from what the user community tells us. Not only what they tell us, then their feedback about what more they'd like to do with it. How do we build that back quickly into the technology and give it back to them allows us to actually advance the product, innovate, leveraging our engineering and the skills therein to bring that back into the product.
So I got to talk with Jim Baum yesterday when he came off stage, and I teased him a little bit. You guys were cooking up a little project when we were here last year that you didn't share with the whole crowd. Obviously, Netezza and IBM were moving close to an acquisition. Congratulations on that. Maybe you could tell the audience a little bit about how the synergy is going, how the integration is going, and so on.
Well, I think it would be probably unfair to state that we were cooking it up last summer, but you could say that things take a while to gestate, and definitely by September they had gestated, which is when we did make a decision to come together. But when you look at this has been a great acquisition, I think on both sides. Netezza was a North America-centered company. 85% or so of the business was in North America, and IBM can bring a global reach and scale to take the technology and to take it into 135-plus countries where we do business. So that's one element of the synergy which is now underway already and has been since late last year. A second element is also advancing the innovation and the product itself. This is a marriage of hardware and software, and we do know a little bit about those topics, and the ability to bring all of our hardware tool chest to bear and give the Netezza engineers time to sort of delve into it and use what they need has come to fruition. You saw the announcement of our high-capacity appliance, which takes the data density well over 4 times what it was previously. So that's an example of that synergy. You then look at the synergy also in terms of client growth. Having over 50% client growth in the last 2 quarters also tells us that the synergy is working well in terms of the receptivity by the client base. So I think all in all, it's a great story so far.
Well, absolutely a great story, and also part of a great investment on behalf of IBM over the last, I think, 20 years. Did I hear correctly this morning that is it 40 or $50 billion in acquisitions since that time frame?
I don't quite know about that. I think it's about 20 billion, I think, when we consider the last decade. I think when you go before that, things begin to get lost in history, and we're not going to get into then currency appreciation and so forth. We can say this much. I mean, a few $1,000s invested in IBM when it went public. I think that was 1914 or 16. I forget the exact year. A few thousand then would result in a few $100 million today. That would have been a great investment if one of our great-grandparents had the foresight.
Most definitely, most definitely. And going back to those older dates, you remind me that last week IBM celebrated its 100-year anniversary. Am I correct?
We did indeed. June 16th was the centennial celebration, 100 years from the day that 3 companies actually came together to form what was called the CTR, Computing, Tabulating, Recording Company, and about a decade later took the name IBM for International Business Machines. So it was indeed a celebration of the technology, of the difference we have made to our clients and to the world, and we really have this very strong belief that IBM's fundamental belief is about applying technology on behalf of solving our client problems. And a great example of that is right here with the appliance world. Again, applying technology, putting together the hardware, the software, the specific data warehousing, unique hardware also inside the box to solve this problem of data warehousing where people used to take months to get value. Now they can get it in days.
You know, you made a great point when you joined Jim on stage for the keynote, and you talked about the place of appliances and the ecosystem for data, and things have evolved a lot over the last couple of years. We used to talk primarily about just having an EDW and that being the solution for what we wanted to get done. That's not the case anymore. Things are evolving, and you made some good points around where appliances fit in the data ecosystem.
Right. So when you think about this, it really goes a little bit back to the theme that IBM talks about called smarter computing. And smarter computing really is about how do you begin to optimize how you deploy the entire ecosystem. And in this case, when you look at data warehousing, people attempted to build one big EDW. Now, the problem with that is it gets slow. It takes a few months. I mean, by the time you can get something done. The second is the number of analytic applications is exploding. How do you put them all in one place? So we hold a very strong belief that in many cases, it's important to bring the data in, and perhaps not one, there might be a couple of places. Now that you got cleansed, enhanced, enriched data, you then want to spawn lots of, I'll call it spokes off of it, where you actually instantiate the analytics you're doing. And this sort of consolidation that is happening is what is really going to drive, I think, the spread of analytics and warehousing in a much more practical, much more bite-sized approach. You know, we kind of joke, you can eat an elephant as long as you eat it bite by bite. Try to swallow the whole thing, you're going to probably, you know, you need a very large mouth. So when you look at that, I think it's this approach of applying sort of the elements of smarter computing, whether we want to use an analogy of a hub and spoke or use the term consolidation, is I think the way that is going to play out. And once you kind of know your workload, that's when an appliance becomes perfect. If you have no predictability about the workload, it's tough to get the right balance. And an appliance, you've got kind of the right balance. But for a lot of workloads, we do believe we have the right balance, and that's when you can sort of instantiate it as an appliance and then provide that great simplicity and time to value back to our clients.
Well, I agree with you. I think things are evolving rather quickly, and Netezza is certainly positioned well to supply a new type of value proposition to folks that are looking to solve those analytic problems. We've heard a lot about interesting new technologies while we've been here, and they tend to be that bright, shiny toy that we all kind of follow. There's solid-state drives and in-memory analytics and lots of other things that we've been discussing the last couple of days. How do you see those fitting in, and how are those things strategic for folks, and maybe what things should they keep in mind when they're looking at that type of technology?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sean. So it kind of reminds me of, you know, somebody who's ill. And one approach can be that you go through a set of diagnosis, you determine the root cause, and then you go get the correct fix to that illness from whichever doctor or hospital you like. The other approach says, I don't really want to know. I go to a bunch of quacks, and whether it's snake oil or the latest herbal remedy or something like that, you take it, and, you know, the chances of you getting well is kind of remote. The problem that our clients are facing is complexity. It's taking them too long. It's taking too many people. So they're looking for the quick cure. That cure, then the snake oil salesmen come up and say, oh, in-memory here, or columnar here, or hybrid here, or just solid state. Those are all possible elements of an answer, but the answer is to which business problem? The business problem is complexity and cost. So you want to answer, okay, how do I take complexity and cost out of the equation? Then you should say, which is the best approach to those, and the correct approach probably blends many of these elements. I would say the appliance approach is perhaps the best. Now, the appliance itself could encapsulate all of these. It could encapsulate memory, it can encapsulate columnar, or one of 20 other techniques also that would apply in here. FPGAs would be an example. A MPP architecture is another example. Doing no storage management is another example. So you bring them to answer the real problem. I think, but the acknowledgement of the problem is what is most critical.
Well, I agree. You have to understand what the problem and what your goal is before you go chasing all those brand new little toys. That's for sure. Good point. Let me ask you one last question before we let you go. There was some comments yesterday, very positive ones. SPSS, IBM Technologies getting better integrated into what Netezza has to offer. I joined the folks in Ottawa a couple of weeks ago and got to hear some of the things that Cognos will be doing with Netezza. But maybe you could kind of let us know what your thoughts are for this type of technology throughout the entire ecosystem at IBM, and maybe where else you see it playing a role.
Well, so without giving away too much of what all products we are planning and still building, because the fact that they're still being built, I think you're going to see two kinds of evolutions of the current appliance world. One, expect the appliance family itself to proliferate. So we have the base Netezza, which is a analytics warehousing appliance. We talked about the high capacity, which allows you to archive a lot more information. So that's the second member of the family. Expect there will be a few more members of the family, whether it's around database security, whether it's around messaging, whether it's around perhaps some form of transactional appliance as well. Then the second theme in a different dimension is which technologies will get coupled in, perhaps a little bit loosely, not quite in the box, but able to leverage the appliance. You mentioned SPSS. So can we optimize how SPSS uses in database analytics to dramatically speed up the response time that an SPSS client can see? Can we couple how Cognos is optimized to leverage all of the capabilities of Netezza itself, so then people who use the combination get more value than either one by itself, sort of a 1 + 1 = 3. So you're going to see both those dimensions, more appliances itself, and then more products optimized to leverage the appliance capabilities.
That's great news, and certainly not unexpected. IBM always makes good use of their acquisitions. Arvind, it was great to see you. Thanks for joining us today. This is Sean Rogers from Enterprise Management Associates here at NZ Universe in Boston. Thank you.